I started listening to the audiobook for C.S. Lewis's The Problem with Pain, and that's the those are the series of C.S. Lewis books that are not dealing with lions, witches, and wardrobes, right? They're dealing with Christianity, and of course, I had my ears puckered up. I was ready before we got as we got moving. I was waiting for the setup, and the first part that has to be accepted is that what he calls this feeling of numinosity, or the numinous, right? Forgive me if I'm getting that wrong. Which is basically a feeling of awe or the presence of God by human beings. So when you're suddenly overwhelmed with this feeling of something spiritual or otherworldly or beyond you, and you almost shrink in a way because you're suddenly aware of an awesome power other than yourself. That's the numinous, and I talk about that like I felt it, but guess what? My point is that even though he can say that this is something that's throughout history, the history of mankind, the written history of mankind, something that's experienced as a haunting or a suddenly troubling feeling. And the way he talks about it is not especially convincing either, because it's almost like it's a infrequent occurrence. You know what I mean? And you would think that it would not be. But that aside, yet when you have existing ideas, and you have to forgive me because I'm not a student of philosophy anymore, or I never really was, and I'm not going to be able to speak or religion, so I can't use the terms you're going to want me to use if you know about this stuff. But if you already have some pre-existing notions in your mind, or psychology, right? Number one, right? I guess psychology is be the biggest thing that's going to irritate people, is that I'm not familiar with anything in modern psychology whatsoever. If you have some pre-existing ideas or notions in your mind already, it tends to influence interpretations, feelings, etc. And please tell me if he addressed this in the problem of pain when he's talking about the numinous, and he's talking about how all people at all different times in all cultures have felt this presence of something awe-inspiring, godlike, that they can't explain. And whether or not he mentions whether or not that feeling is followed by a belief in such things. I guess you look at it on one hand, you have somebody with no idea of God or no conception of spirit, and they're in suddenly awe of. He mentions the weather a lot, right? So earthquakes, whatever, thunder, something. There's not really much difference in the reaction with that versus somebody who has the idea already of the otherworldly, of the spiritual, of the godly, the godlike, I should say. So I don't. If you can't agree on that point there, then you can't really move forward with the rest of what he's saying. I don't know if this is an example or not, but I'll tell it. It'll be at least interesting, because people might think I'm just kind of talking up my ass, and I like to say something that's at least somewhat funny, interesting, or worth hearing for just a few seconds in each of these videos. A friend of mine was a co-worker. I consider him a friend. Very intelligent guy. We're from similar backgrounds. He's from an African American background here in Memphis. Extremely sharp. I would always tell him, he kind of surpasses me in terms of his knowledge of various vitamins and supplements. And I mean, he really does, and his knowledge is unbelievable. You compare it, we both worked at the vitamin shop, we both worked at GNC, we both been into the whole working out and trying to gain muscle thing, but it's just amazing to me how he's amazing to me in general, because he's an example of somebody I never ever meet or never talk to, which is somebody who I feel is of equal or greater intelligence than me, that has a completely different view of things and understands where I'm coming from completely sees things my way, or had seen things my way at one point, but offers a completely contradictory, though no less compelling view of important things, like, that go on between people and in religion and such. It's funny because I don't think it's all to do with his Christian beliefs, but anyway, he said he had told me he had heard the voice of God. He had said that while he was depressed, wanted to kill himself, he heard the voice of God. And no, the voice of God didn't tell him to slit someone's throat. The voice of God told him to preach his God's word, right? The voice of God told him to, hey, talk about me some more to other people. And so he's very good at that. But again, would that happen to me without first being convinced of the existence of God? I don't think so. So there's no numinous experience for me. That's there's a very long, drawn out. I'm making these videos now because I don't think anybody's watching them, right? It'd just be funny to me at this point if somebody watches them. I'm almost making them ridiculously drawn out and stupid, just so I can, like, maybe if I'm still alive in a year, like, hear a comment on it, right? Like somebody actually watched it and took it seriously, and then I have to go marry that person.